Welcome to IIOCS.com Food Tech Club. In this class, you will be learning about causes of food spoilage and sources of contamination. Let us see what is food spoilage. Food spoilage can be defined as any change in the visual, smell, and texture of foods that makes the food unacceptable for consumption. Why does food get spoiled? Because foods provide excellent environment for microbial growth as they are nutrient rich. Some signs of food spoilage may include any change in appearance of food from its fresh form, such as change in color, change in texture, unpleasant odor, and undesirable taste. So these are external changes. Okay, internal changes might be there, but we won't be knowing that. Okay, externally we can identify the food spoilage with color, texture, unpleasant odor, and undesirable taste. Coming to shelf life, average storage lives of high and intermediate moisture foods is up to 1 to 20 days, and for dried foods it is up to 1 year. Based on the ease of spoilage, foods are classified into perishable foods and semi-perishable foods and then non-perishable foods. Perishable foods are foods that can spoil easily if not stored properly. Okay, so some examples for perishable foods are milk, vegetables, eggs, etc. So they can spoil easily. Semi-perishable foods are the foods which, when properly stored, they remain unspoiled for a long time. So you have to properly store it, then only you can keep it unspoiled. Okay, some examples are apples, potatoes, onions, etc. So in apples, potatoes, and onions, if you have observed at your house, you keep all this food outside, right? You don't keep it in refrigeration, but you keep away from the moisture or any water content in the kitchen, right? You keep onions or potatoes away from the water, right? If you keep safe like this, then it will stay for a long time. Such foods are called as semi-perishable foods. Next is non-perishable foods. Non-perishable foods are those which do not get spoiled easily unless handled carelessly. Okay, if you handle it carelessly, then it might get spoiled, but unless you handle it carefully, it will not get spoiled. Some examples are sugar, flavor, dry beans, etc. So in this also, you should not keep the sugar or flour box open. Okay, some oxidation might occur, or some moisture can get into it and it will form clumps, right? So like this, quality will deteriorate if you don't handle it carefully. Otherwise, this will stay for an year long. Okay, yeah, so this is about perishable, semi-perishable, and non-perishable foods. Some examples are, for perishable foods, you can see the eggs, milk, and some vegetables. For non-perishable foods, it is beans, flour, sugar, salt, etc. And for semi-perishable foods, it is apples, potatoes, onions, etc. Let us see the causes of food spoilage. The main cause of food spoilage being the microorganisms. So they cause the major food spoilage in the environment. Okay. Other causes are inherent food enzymes, temperature, moisture, oxygen, light, etc. So let us see all these food spoilage, all these causes of food spoilage. First one being the spoilage due to microorganisms, that is by bacteria. Okay. Food is most commonly spoiled by bacteria as it can grow in a wide variety of conditions. Bacteria do not grow at a water activity level below 0.91. Okay, it requires high water activity, and they require a neutral pH and optimum temperature. Okay, so this is for general bacteria, and in some cases some bacteria are capable of forming spores which are highly heat resistant, and some bacteria, they are capable of producing heat resistant toxins. Okay, so these heat resistant toxins and heat resistant spores require very high temperature to destroy them. It's better to avoid contamination of these spores and toxin forming bacteria. The bacteria cause off flavor, off odor, discoloration, gas production, slime production, and decrease in pH in the food. Some examples of spoilage causing bacteria are: in fish, we commonly see Pseudomonas species, Chivanella species, Clostridium species, Micrococcus species, Proteus species, etc. And in milk, Pseudomonas fluorescens is among the most common spoilage agents in the milk. Okay. In meat, it is E. coli, Salmonella, Staphylococcus aureus, and Listeria monocytogenes. Okay, there are n number of microorganisms, and to mention some, it is these four. And in eggs, it is Pseudomonas, Proteus, Alkaligens, Aeromonas, and coliforms species. In cereals, family of Bacillacea, Micrococcaceae, Lactobacillacea, and Pseudomonadacea. So all these family of bacteria might cause spoilage in cereals. In addition to causing food to deteriorate and taste unpleasant, some type of spoilage can be caused by pathogenic bacteria. So these pathogenic bacteria can have serious health consequences. Okay, it doesn't only spoil the food, it also affects our health if consumed unknowingly. For example, Clostridium perfringens, which commonly causes spoilage in meat and poultry, and also Bacillus cereus, which commonly causes spoilage in milk and cream, are pathogenic in nature. Okay, when these pathogenic organisms are exposed to unsuitable storage conditions, they can multiply rapidly, and they can release dangerous toxins that will be harmful if consumed. Even if it is cooked to a safe internal temperature, it is very difficult to destroy these pathogenic organisms or the dangerous toxins. Okay. Yeah. Next is spoilage due to fungi. Fungi is the most abundant group of microorganisms that play important role in food spoilage. Fungi are osmotropic in nature. What is osmotropic? They get their food by absorption, and that absorption is done by the process of osmosis. Okay, osmosis is the movement of solute from movement of solvent from higher solute concentration to lower solute concentration. Okay, fungi are osmotropic. They obtain their nutrient by absorption. Okay, that is by osmosis. Fungi can be divided into mold and yeast. Let us see the spoilage caused by molds. Mold is a multicellular structure which can grow on the surface of food and form a tough visible mass of growth which is called as mold growth. Okay, so these molds you might have seen in your kitchen, so they are visible to our naked eyes. Okay, the mass of growth we can see is nothing but the mold growth. Molds form spores which drifts through air and starts their growth in a suitable place and condition. Okay, so molds can spread through air. So how? Molds, when they get dried, they get into the air, get into the moving air, and they find some other suitable food and they spoil that food also. Okay, so they can spread through air. Molds are aerobic organisms, that is, they require oxygen for all their activities. Molds prefer acidic pH and they grow as fluffy mass and they prefer moisture and temperature between 20 to 40 degrees Celsius. Molds are active at refrigeration temperature but are destroyed above 70 degrees Celsius. That means even if freezing technology doesn't work for molds, right? So foods can get spoiled even if they are refrigerated, right? So that's why heating the food at 70 degrees Celsius might avoid the spoilage by molds. Therefore, they are easily destroyed by thermal treatment. The growth of molds is generally accompanied by production of enzymes that break down food and cause spoilage. So they produce enzymes which break down the components of food and they cause the spoilage. In addition to this, they also produce mycotoxins which may be harmful. Food with fungal growth may appear safe to eat since growth is limited mainly to surface, but they are harmful substances which may be present in the entire food and therefore it should not be consumed. Okay, so you usually see the fungal growth in the upper layer of the food, but it might have affected or it might have spread its toxin to the whole food. Okay, that's why you have to discard such foods but not consume it. To see some example, we have Alternaria. So this causes stem end rot or black rot or brown to black rot in foods like citrus fruits, apple and fig. Aspergillus causes black rot in peach and citrus fruits. Botrytis, they cause green mold rot in carrot, lettuce, cabbage, apple, pears, grapes, citrus fruits, etc. Mucor causes black spot in mutton. Then geotrichum causes sour rot in figs. Then fusarium causes dry rot in tomato and cucumber. And then penicillium causes blue and green mold rot in apples, grapes and pears. And colitotrichum causes brown or black spot in mangoes and papayas. And peronospora causes downy mildew. So this downy mildew is nothing but the white or yellow dots you see on any leafy vegetables, any leaves. Okay, that is nothing but downy mildew. So that is caused on vegetables like onions and brassica. So on onions also you can see the black round dots. So that is nothing but downy mildew. Rhizopus causes soft rot, watery soft rot in legumes, carrot, apples, figs and also in tomatoes, etc. So these are the some pictures which shows the spoilage by molds. So Alternaria causing black rot in strawberry. And this picture is about Aspergillus black rot in pomegranate. And this is the watery soft rot in tomatoes caused by Rhizopus. And this is the blue and green mold rot in oranges caused by Penicillium. Next is spoilage by yeast. Compared to bacteria and molds, yeast play a minor role in food spoilage. Yeast can grow with or without oxygen and are used for beneficial fermentation in bread and alcoholic drink fermentation also. So yeast, they don't only cause spoilage in food, they are mainly used for some beneficial aspects like fermentation in bread and alcoholic drinks. Yeast require a water activity level of 0.9 to 0.95 for growth, and they can grow in a wide range of pH, that is between 3 to 8, but in general they prefer acidic pH. Okay, yeast can cause a change in color, change in texture, unpleasant odor, or undesirable taste in foods. Let us see some different types of yeast causing different types of spoilage in foods. So anaerobic fermentative yeast. So these are the yeast which majorly cause food spoilage because they are anaerobic in nature. Okay, they, even if we remove the oxygen content from a food package and we seal it, so if the food is contaminated with such anaerobic fermentative yeast, the food will get spoiled. So they produce gas and cause swelling of the food package. So for example, you can see here, so this part of the can is swollen. Okay, this is because of gas production. Okay, then osmophilic yeast, so they tolerate and grow in high osmotic pressure, that is, even if you add class 1 preservatives like salt and sugar into the solution in high concentration, then also they can these yeast can grow. Okay, they can tolerate high sugar and salt conditions. So this is a pickle which has mold growth, yeast growth, if you observe. Okay, so next is zero tolerant yeast. So these are tolerant to dry conditions. They also grow in dry conditions. If you see this jam bottle, so jams are low in moisture, right? So even then they have grown on the jams. Okay, these are some examples for different types of yeast causing spoilage in different foods. So let us see some names of yeast causing spoilage in different foods. Candida species cause spoilage in poultry, dates and pineapple. Then Cryptococcus cause spoilage in strawberry. Hansennia spora causes spoilage in fig, tomato, strawberry, dates, citrus fruit. Then Cloiveromyces, they cause spoilage in fruits and cheese. Rhodotorula, they cause spoilage in poultry, shrimp, olive, butter surfaces. Then Saccharomyces species, they cause spoilage in mainly liquid foods like tomato sauce, mayonnaise, salad dressing, soft drink, fruit juice, olives, dates and figs. Then Trichosporon, they cause spoilage in shrimp and poultry. Zygosaccharomyces, they cause spoilage in mayonnaise and salad dressing. Then Torulopsis, they cause spoilage in sauerkraut, cucumber and figs. Next is spoilage by protozoa. Protozoa are single-celled microorganisms. They don't have a rigid cell wall, and the transmissible form of protozoa are called as cysts. Okay. The transmissible form of protozoa are called as cysts. Protozoan parasites are highly associated with foodborne and waterborne outbreaks of disease. The water and food act as a carrier for transmission of protozoan parasites from one host to another host. So mainly from water and food, these protozoans contaminate the food, okay, or they affect the host. The most common foodborne parasites are Entamoeba histolytica and Trichinella spiralis. Next is spoilage by algae. Algae are primary producers which are a source of different nutrients, and they are usually of aquatic habitats. Okay, that means they are found in water bodies. Algae contaminate the water source with their toxin, and they cause them to accumulate in fish and other marine life. Okay, so the toxin may or may not be harmful to marine lives, but when such fish or other marine lives are consumed by humans, it leads to foodborne illness. Okay, so what does algae do? They first affect the marine organisms. So if these marine organisms are consumed by humans, so they cause foodborne illness. Okay, so you can see one water body completely affected by algae. Next is spoilage by virus. Viruses are obligate intracellular parasites that cause a wide range of disease in plants, animals and humans. So viruses, they need specific living cells to replicate, and therefore they cannot replicate in food or water. Okay, so that means they need some host body. Okay, on the host cell only they can replicate. If they are on the food, they cannot replicate, they cannot reproduce, or they cannot multiply. The water and food act as a carrier for transmission of viruses from one host to another. Okay, so these water and food, they just carry the virus. Okay, these virus when consumed, they take our home living cells, our cells as their home, and then they replicate. Foodborne viruses are quite stable outside the host and are acid resistant, so it is difficult to kill them with acid also. Some of foodborne viruses are novovirus, hepatitis A virus, hepatitis E virus, astrovirus, rotavirus, etc. So we until now we saw the causes, the food spoilage caused by bacteria, fungus, molds, then yeast, protozoa, algae and virus, right? So all these microorganisms, they need proper conditions to grow. Okay, though these are the factors which influence microbial growth. So let us see the factors which influence microbial growth. So we have intrinsic factors and extrinsic factors. Intrinsic factors are the factors which lies within the food, and extrinsic factors are the factors they are outside of the food. Okay, the external environment of the food. So the pH, moisture content, nutrient content, antimicrobial constituents, oxidation reduction potential, these are the factors which influence growth of microorganisms. And the external factors include temperature of storage, gases in the atmosphere, relative humidity, etc. Okay. Spoilage by, let us see the spoilage of foods by inherent enzymes. Enzymes are complex chemical substances which are present in all living organisms and tissues, and they control metabolic processes. Okay, just like humans, even in foods, so the metabolic processes are controlled by enzymes. Different biochemical reactions in foods and plant tissues are catalyzed by enzymes. If enzymatic reactions are uncontrolled, it creates off odors, off colors, and other undesirable changes in the food. So, let us see some undesirable activity of enzymes. Oxidation of phenolic compounds in plant tissues to orthoquinones by the enzymes phenolases, peroxidases, polyphenol oxidases. So these conversion of phenols to orthoquinones, it is not desirable because these orthoquinones rapidly polymerize to form brown pigments called melanin, which leads to the enzymatic browning. So here you can see one side of apple is brown in color. That is because this side of apple was cut before and kept open. Okay, so the when the when the fruits are cut, so these enzymes, they get activated and they do their work, which is the conversion of phenols to orthoquinones, which is undesirable to us because it produces melanin, a brown compound which causes the enzymatic browning. Okay, then conversion of sugar to starch in plant tissues by amylases, this is also not desirable. Next one is post harvest demethylation of pectic substances in plant tissues, they lead to excess softening of foods. Okay, this is about action of enzymes. Next is effect of temperature on food spoilage. When temperatures are not properly controlled, food can spoil. For example, for every 18-degree rise in temperature within the moderate temperature range where most food is handled, that is between 50 to 100 degree Fahrenheit, the rate of chemical reaction is approximately doubled. That means every 18 degree Fahrenheit increase in the temperature, it will double the rate of chemical reaction happening within the food. Okay, so all these enzymes which I told in the previous slides, they get activated and they start their work, undesirable work. Okay, as a result, excessive heat will increase the rate of natural food enzyme reaction and the reaction of other food constituents. As a result of the enzyme activity, the proteins will break down, emulsions will break down in some food, then some vitamins will be destroyed, moisture will be lost, and then the color, flavor, odor of some product may be affected. Fruits and vegetables that accidentally freeze and thaw have their texture and appearance affected. So you can see the kiwi fruit here. So this is the fresh one. Okay, this is the one which is kept in the fridge for some time. Okay, if you see this part, okay, this part looks soggy, right? So the water is kind of leaking out, and it is kept in fridge for more time. So this one looks more soggy, right? The water is already coming out, because if you freeze the fruit for more time, large size of crystals will be formed. So these large crystals will damage the cells. Okay. Then the water will come out and the fruit becomes soggy when you thaw the food, when you keep the food outside. Skins and surfaces of such products will often crack, leaving them more susceptible to microbial contamination. When the skin of the fruit cracks, what happens? So the water content will come out. So for on that, microorganisms from air, they can come and sit and they can grow well, right? Some foods that become frozen may also be adversely affected. For example, if mayonnaise freezes, the emulsion will break and the components will separate. So mayonnaise is a best example for emulsion, right? So emulsion is the one which is the characteristic of mayonnaise. If emulsion itself breaks, then the mayonnaise will not have the desired texture. Okay. Next is effect of water content on spoilage. All living organisms as well as food contain water. Water makes up about 70% or more of the weight of most fresh foods, that is unprocessed foods. Even dry foods like beans, flour, and cereals contain some amount of water. Fresh fruits and vegetables contain the most water, between 90% to 95% water. Water is Water in the food is classified according to its availability or biological activity as free and bound water. Free water is not bound to any components in a food, and it can be used for microbial growth and also for chemical reactions in the food. So free water is the one which is used by the microorganisms and for chemical reactions. Okay, they are free to use. And bound water is physically bound to large molecules. Okay, so sorry, yeah, the bound water is physically bound to large molecules or components in the food. So they are not available for the microorganisms or for the chemical reactions. So free water, how does it help microorganisms growth? If we see, microorganisms need water to dissolve their food, and they use water. Also allows the food to get into the bacterial, yeast, and mold cells, where it is used for energy and growth. To get their food, they need water as the medium to carry all the nutrients. Okay, water also allows waste products of microorganisms to escape from their cells. Next one is how free water is useful in chemical reactions. The moisture in food also functions to allow chemical reactions to occur between components in the food product. Okay, like dehydration reaction or rehydration reaction, all these reactions happen by free water. Yeah, next is effect of oxygen concentration on spoilage. Oxygen can cause food to spoil in several ways. So, oxygen encourages the growth of microorganisms, resulting in mold and yeast growth. They also can do one more thing, that is oxidizing enzymes speed up chemical reactions in food, resulting in browning and foul odors. Then oxidizing lipids attack fatty portions in food, then resulting in foul odors and off flavor. Okay, so when lipids are oxidized by oxygen, they cause foul odor and flavor. Next is effect of light on spoilage. Exposure to light is one factor that can cause foods to spoil faster. Both natural and artificial light can speed this process, and the process is called as photodegradation. Okay, photodegradation is the process of degradation of the quality of food by light. Okay, so the light may not cause complete spoilage, they can just make the process of spoilage faster. Okay, photodegradation occurs when the absorption of light directly causes a chemical reaction in a constituent in the food. This photodegradation usually affects specific components such as pigments, vitamins, fats, and proteins. So, pigment is the first thing which is affected. Absorption of light can cause food to develop of flavors, lose or change in their color. Okay, they can lose their color, or the color might have changed. Water soluble vitamins such as vitamin B family are very sensitive to photodegradation. Light also affects the antioxidant activity of the food. So this is one such example of photodegradation of papaya fruit. If you see, when the papaya fruit was exposed to the light on day 1, so it was green in color. So on day 4, so all the green color is vanished and it is turned to yellow color. Okay, this is photodegradation. Let us see the last topic, that is sources of contamination of food. Okay, there are 3 main sources of contamination, that is physical, chemical, and bacterial. First one being physical contamination. So physical contamination is basically the external contamination of food. This can occur in a variety of ways. So that includes soil from the ground when harvesting itself. While harvesting itself, it can get contaminated externally. A foreign material from a processing plant while packaging, and or a hair while cooking the food. Okay, a hair into the food, if it goes, then that is also a physical contaminant. Okay, care must be taken while processing or harvesting the food to make sure that no physical contamination is there. Next one is chemical contamination. So chemical contamination occurs in different ways, like chemicals from farm, then a cleaning product used in the processing plant when packaging also. So even the cleaning products, if they are left in the walls of the vessels, so that will get into the food while processing. Okay, then chemicals used in the product preparation area while preparing the food. So even these chemicals might affect the food, might contaminate the food. Then bacterial contamination. So this bacterial contamination can happen in each and every level of food processing. Okay, in every level the food is susceptible for bacterial contamination. The normal flora of food, soil, water or atmosphere it is exposed to while preparation contributes a major role in microbial spoilage of food. Okay, so the normal flora of food, okay, the one which naturally it has, and also the bacteria coming from the soil and bacteria coming from water which we use to wash the food, and also from atmosphere, it is from air basically. So microorganisms from the air. So all these things, if the food, the food will be exposed to all these things, right? Naturally it will have microorganisms. And the food may get contaminated from soil, air, water, animals and animal products, food handlers, food processing equipment and food storage vessels or platforms. So some other ways are, so the animal products, they might be getting contaminated from the source itself, and also from food handlers, or during food processing from the equipments, during storage from the vessels and storage platform. Okay, yeah. In conclusion, spoilage of food is not just an issue of quality, so it is also a matter of food safety. Okay, USDA recommends following the 4 steps to prevent food spoilage and reduce the risk of foodborne illness. So the 4 main steps which has to be followed while processing is properly cleaning the food and the processing area. Then separate different kinds of food, like the perishable foods, non-perishable foods, and the damaged foods. All these foods should be kept separately. And then cook properly to the CCP, critical control point. Okay, cook properly to the critical control point, and then store properly. Chill in the sense you have to store the food properly in the proper condition. Yes, that's all for today. Goodbye. For any enquiry, you may call or WhatsApp to the number given on the screen, and we will meet again in this platform at 8:30 p.m. day after tomorrow. Continue your preparation with IIOCS.com Food Tech Club. Thank you.